They say a person's strength is measured not by how much they carry, but by how long they carry it alone. Monica Reyes had carried everything: heartbreak, responsibility, the endless weight of being both mother and father, for over a decade. And in a single moment, at what was supposed to be her new beginning, it all threatened to unravel. The groom slapped the bride's daughter at the wedding. What happened next shocked everyone. Subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching this video from. Monica Reyes' life was a delicate balancing act, a constant juggle between career and motherhood. 36 years old, sharp-minded and resilient, she had carved out a solid career in public relations while raising her 11-year-old daughter, Liana, on her own. Monica had long since set aside any fantasies of romance for the realities of single parenting. Her heart had been hardened by the past. A painful divorce from Marcus, a man who once vowed her forever but left her with wounds, both visible and hidden. Now her entire world revolved around Liana, her greatest source of strength and joy. Their modest two-bedroom townhouse wasn't spacious, but it was always warm. The kitchen constantly smelled of cinnamon from Monica's weekend baking, and the living room, scattered with Liana's books and colored pencils, felt like a sanctuary. Liana, with her thick curls and thoughtful, wide eyes, was the center of Monica's universe. She was a quiet child, far more comfortable with her sketchbook and novels than with kids her own age. Monica often saw her daughter scribbling away in a little lavender notebook with a tiny gold lock, her journal, where she poured out her thoughts in private. Sometimes, Monica wondered what those pages held. What quiet emotions her daughter didn't yet have the words to speak aloud. There were nights when she'd pass by Liana's room and catch the flicker of lamplight beneath the door, her child hunched over her writing, completely lost in her world. In those moments, Monica would pause, her hand just above the doorknob, aching with the longing to protect a heart she couldn't always reach. Monica's social life was minimal by her own choice. Outside of occasional brunches with her best friend Tasha, she rarely ventured out for more than errands or work. Tasha, always energetic and outspoken, often nudged her toward dating again. "You've spent years giving your all to Liana and your job," she would say. "You deserve something for yourself too." Monica would just laugh it off. "Love's not on the schedule, Tash. I'm busy enough as it is." But fate, it seemed, had other ideas. The night of the nonprofit art benefit was one Monica hadn't planned on attending. Her manager had pushed her to go, something about networking and representing the firm. So there Monica was, dressed in a midnight blue cocktail dress, her natural curls loose around her face, a flute of champagne in hand. The gallery buzzed with polished smiles and overpriced artwork that felt soulless despite the hefty price tags. She wandered room to room, her eyes glazing over modern canvases, silently counting the minutes until she could disappear unnoticed. She felt like a stranger inside her own skin, surrounded by shallow conversation and curated elegance that didn't quite reach her. And then he appeared beside her, seemingly out of nowhere. "Modern art," he said, voice smooth and touched with humor, a celebration of confusion. Monica turned, raising her brows. Next to her stood a tall man with neatly styled chestnut hair and a tailored navy suit. His eyes were a sharp green, and his smile had a trace of playfulness. "You don't sound like a fan," she replied, a reluctant smile forming on her lips. "Oh, I admire the effort," he said, eyes crinkling slightly, "but I've always preferred things that tell a story, something with heart, not just brushstrokes." The conversation flowed naturally from that point on. He introduced himself as Julian Grant, a business owner with a love for art and charitable work. They shared stories, hers about single motherhood and her job in public relations, his about entrepreneurial ventures and travels around the globe. He listened with an attentive warmth that Monica wasn't used to. When she brought up Liana, there was no flicker of discomfort, no shift in his posture, none of the usual hesitation she'd come to expect when men found out she had a child. Instead, he simply asked, "What's she like?" Monica found herself describing Liana with unexpected ease, her passion for books, her quick wit, her way of seeing the world through curious, thoughtful eyes. Julian smiled, genuinely. "She sounds amazing. You must be proud." "I am," Monica said, and for the first time in a long while, her heart felt strangely light. By the end of the evening, Julian asked if he could see her again. And against her usual instincts, Monica said yes. Their first real date took place at a quiet Italian trattoria. The atmosphere was intimate, filled with soft music and the comforting scent of fresh herbs and garlic. The conversation came just as easily as it had the first night. Monica laughed more than she had in years. Julian was engaging without being pushy, self-assured but never arrogant. He asked thoughtful questions about her aspirations, her fears, and most unexpectedly, about Liana. "She's a big part of my world," Monica said, voice steady but cautious. "As she should be," Julian responded. "I'd like to meet her, when the time feels right." Monica's chest tightened. She had introduced Liana to someone only once before, and it hadn't gone well. But something about Julian's sincerity made her want to believe he meant what he said. They arranged the meeting on a breezy Saturday afternoon at the local park. Liana was reserved, her sketchbook hugged close to her chest, watching Julian carefully from a distance. He greeted her with a kind, relaxed smile and handed her a book. One Monica had casually mentioned was on Liana's current reading list. Liana took it, fingers brushing over the cover. "Thank you," she said quietly, her tone polite but guarded. The afternoon unfolded gently. Julian asked Liana about her favorite topics and quietly listened as she spoke about her love for drawing and stories. He didn't press when she pulled back. He didn't try to force small talk. By the end of the day, Liana hadn't opened up completely, but she hadn't shut him out either. "She's shy," Monica said later as they walked back to their cars. "She's thoughtful," Julian replied. "She's observing. I would be too if someone new showed up in my mom's life." Monica's heart softened. Few men grasped the depth of the mother-daughter bond. Julian seemed to. Weeks became months, and Julian gradually became part of their routine. He brought small, meaningful gifts for Liana, a sketch set one week, a handmade bookmark the next. He joined them for weekend brunch and even helped Liana build a presentation for a school project on local bird species. Still, Liana remained distant. Her interactions with Julian were measured and cautious. She never lit up around him the way she did with Tasha or her teachers. Monica took note, but chalked it up to her daughter's nature. Liana had always been wary of new people. With time, Monica believed those walls would eventually come down. She told herself that all new relationships took adjustment, that maybe, just maybe, she was rushing things. But late at night, when she replayed the quiet moments, a subtle chill would creep in. It wasn't just caution. There was something else, something too quiet to name, too unsettling to ignore. And yet, part of her didn't want to name it, because naming it would mean facing it. And she had come so far, let someone in after so long. She didn't want to admit that maybe, just maybe, her heart had chosen wrong again. But what Monica didn't know, what only the private pages of Liana's journal revealed, was the quiet unease behind her daughter's silence. In her neat, slanted handwriting, one line stood out from the rest. "He's nice to Mom, but when he looks at me, his smile doesn't reach his eyes." The weekend sun poured golden light over everything as Monica and Liana packed overnight bags for their first trip to Julian's lake house. Monica felt a flicker of excitement. This felt like a real step forward, like lives starting to blend together, something she hadn't dared hope for in years. Hope, that old fragile thing, had crept back in, and she clung to it, needing it to be real. The drive was smooth. Liana sat quietly in the back seat, sketchbook in hand, offering only brief replies when Monica tried to draw her into conversation. Each short answer made Monica's heart tighten just a little, but she kept telling herself it was nerves. Just nerves. When they arrived, the lake house was breathtaking, 2 stories of glass and cedar, set against the still waters of a sparkling lake. It looked more like a designer retreat than an actual home. Inside, everything was perfectly arranged, so pristine it felt like a model home staged for a magazine. Liana's eyes studied every detail with the same scrutiny she gave unfamiliar books. She noticed the clean symmetry, the lack of personal touches, no photos, no signs of warmth. It was beautiful, yes, but not lived in, not loved. Julian greeted them with his usual charm, giving a brief tour of the house. He'd set up a guest room just for Liana, complete with a fresh set of colored pencils and a new sketch pad. Monica smiled at the gesture. Liana only offered a quiet "thank you" before slipping into the room. Dinner started out lighthearted. Julian cooked while Monica helped, their laughter filling the open kitchen. Liana sat at the counter, sketching silently until her elbow bumped her glass, spilling water across the sleek granite countertop. She quickly reached for a napkin, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Julian's voice cut through the warmth, sharper than before. "Careful, Liana." His tone wasn't loud, but it carried a cold edge that made her hands hesitate. Monica picked up on the tension and quickly smoothed things over. "It's just water, Julian. No harm done." Julian smiled faintly, locking eyes with Monica. "Of course, just teaching a little mindfulness." He reached out to ruffle Liana's curls, but her body stiffened under his touch. The moment passed in seconds, but for Liana it etched itself deep, unseen but not unfelt. Monica saw it, felt it, but then she buried it beneath another layer of justification. Maybe she was overanalyzing, maybe this was just an adjustment. Maybe she was afraid to admit the truth too soon again. That night, Liana appeared in Monica's bedroom doorway, clutching her sketch pad to her chest. "Can I sleep in here with you?" she asked softly. Monica was surprised. Liana hadn't made that request in years. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Liana nodded quickly, but avoided her mother's eyes. "The room feels too big." "It just feels weird," Liana murmured. Monica's heart softened. "Of course, baby, come here." She lifted the covers, and Liana crawled in beside her, small, warm, familiar. As the girl slowly drifted off to sleep, Monica's fingers combed gently through her curls. A mixture of comfort and unease filled her chest. Something didn't sit quite right, though she couldn't put her finger on it. By morning, Liana was back to her usual quiet self, and the odd moment from the night before faded into the background. Weeks passed. Julian's role in their lives expanded. He joined them regularly for brunch, offered to pick Liana up from school when Monica ran late, even helped her daughter build a diorama for a school project on native wildlife. It all seemed thoughtful, generous, on paper, but Liana stayed withdrawn. No matter how many kind gestures Julian made, she kept a quiet distance. Monica felt it growing, a slow burn of frustration. She wanted them to bond. She wanted what she had dreamed of, a partner who could love and understand both her and her child. But no matter how hard Julian tried, Liana kept him at arm's length. The tension between them began to show more frequently. One evening, over dinner at Julian's sleek high-rise condo, Liana accidentally knocked her fork off the table while Julian was telling a story. He stopped mid-sentence. "Pick it up," he said. Liana slid off her chair to retrieve it, but as she reached down, the fork slipped again and clattered against the tile floor. Julian's voice came sharper this time, controlled but unmistakably cold. "I said pick it up." Monica's brows drew together. "Julian, it's fine. She's got it." Julian offered a tight smile. "Just teaching her responsibility. Children need to learn to manage simple tasks without clumsiness." The words settled like a stone in the space between them. Liana's eyes stayed fixed on her plate. Whatever joy had been in the evening dissolved completely. That night, back at their apartment, Monica tucked Liana into bed and ran her fingers softly through her hair. "Sweetheart," she asked gently, "do you like being around Julian?" Liana hesitated. Her fingers played with the edge of her blanket. "He's okay." Monica waited. She could feel more behind those two simple words. "It's okay to tell me how you feel," she whispered. Liana's lips pressed together. Then finally, in a small voice, "He's nice, but sometimes he looks at me like I'm in the way." Monica felt her heart ache. The words were quiet but heavy. "Baby, you are never in the way, and if anyone ever makes you feel uncomfortable, you tell me. Always. Promise?" Liana nodded, but the shadow in her gaze lingered. Later that night, Monica lay awake, playing the evening back in her mind. The sharp tone in Julian's voice, the way Liana flinched under his hand on her shoulder. But she also thought about his kindness, his attentiveness, his willingness to be part of their world. He was trying, wasn't he? Maybe this was just an adjustment period. Liana had always been cautious. The following weekend, they attended a family picnic hosted by Julian's business associates. Monica watched closely as Julian introduced her daughter to others, his hand resting lightly on Liana's shoulder, his tone steady and smooth. "This is Monica's daughter, Liana." There was something distant in the way he said it, like Liana's presence was only acknowledged because of Monica, not on her own. During the picnic games, Liana stumbled and scraped her knee. As Monica rushed over, Julian's voice came fast and flat. Shake it off, kid. You're fine. Liana's lower lip quivered, but she didn't say a word. She stood up and brushed dirt off her jeans. Monica glanced toward Julian, something uneasy twisting in her chest. But he was already back to laughing with his colleagues, his polished charm firmly in place. And just like that, the moment was gone for him. But not for Monica. Not for Liana. Monica's smile stayed frozen as she walked back, trying to silence the small knot curling in her stomach. She wanted so badly for this to be okay, for this man, this relationship, to work. She had built too much on the idea of finally having something whole. That evening, when they got home, Liana quietly disappeared into her bedroom. Later, while tidying up, Monica noticed Liana's journal lying slightly open on the bed. One line, scribbled in her daughter's neat handwriting, caught her eye and stopped her cold. "I feel like he only likes me when I'm invisible." The words hit Monica harder than she expected. She closed the journal gently, a knot forming in her stomach. The next morning, over coffee, she brought it up with Tasha. She shared the little moments, the sharp tone, Liana's quiet detachment, and that unsettling sentence from the picnic. Tasha's expression shifted from concern to something sharper. "Monica," she said carefully, "kids have instincts about people. If Liana feels something's off, you have to take that seriously." "He's just trying to help," Monica replied, though her voice lacked conviction. "He comes from a different background. Maybe he's just stricter than I am. But he's never been cruel." Even as she said the words, they felt thin, like something borrowed from a script she no longer believed in. Tasha didn't flinch. Her gaze stayed locked. Strict is one thing, cold is another. A man who sees a child as an inconvenience, that's a red flag. Monica felt her defenses flare, irritation flashing through her. Because if Tasha was right, what did that make her? A woman who missed the signs? A mother who looked away? It came fast, almost reflexive, like a wall rising to protect something fragile. Hope. "You've never liked him, Tasha. You're always looking for flaws. Maybe you think I'm better off alone." Tasha's face tensed, but her voice remained calm. "I don't care if I like him. I care that Liana's happy and safe. She's telling you how she feels. The question is, are you hearing her?" The conversation left Monica feeling raw and unsettled. She trusted Tasha deeply. But was this just overprotectiveness? Or was it something Monica didn't want to admit, that maybe her daughter saw something she didn't want to face? Still, Liana's words echoed in her mind. They clung to her in quiet moments, circling her thoughts. The following week, Monica made an effort to observe more closely. She studied Julian's interactions with Liana. His corrections were subtle but consistent. "Use your napkin. Sit up straight. Speak clearly." His voice was calm, polite, but devoid of warmth, like a teacher barely tolerating a student. One evening, Liana accidentally tipped over her glass at dinner. It was a minor spill, but the air turned cold in an instant. Julian's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Another spill," he said lightly, but something sharp hid in his tone. Liana's hand shook as she wiped the mess. Her shoulders were rigid with tension. She didn't cry. She didn't complain. She just shrank into herself like she was trying to disappear. And that was what broke Monica more than anything. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about spilled water. It was about a little girl learning how to become invisible to stay safe. Monica felt the moment freeze in time, the heavy silence, her daughter's stiff posture, the absence of comfort. It was a moment begging her to see things clearly. But hope clouded her judgment, the desire for things to work, for this relationship to be right. And beneath that, guilt. Guilt that she might be asking her daughter to pay the price for her longing to belong. That night, Monica kissed Liana on the forehead, brushing a soft curl away. "I love you, baby girl, so much." Liana's voice was small. "I know, Mom." When Monica climbed into her own bed, her chest ached with doubt. Her chest felt weighed down with questions, but she didn't want to ask them. Not yet. The restaurant glowed with soft amber light. The gentle clinking of glasses and low hum of conversation wove a blanket of calm around the room. Monica felt the tension in her shoulders ease as she sat across from Julian. The scent of garlic and fresh basil from their pasta lingered between them. He had chosen the restaurant thoughtfully, an elegant, tucked-away spot with a sweeping view of the city skyline, the buildings glowing like a field of stars against the night. Monica sipped her wine and smiled. letting herself, for once, just enjoy the moment. Julian's eyes, steady and full of quiet intent, never left hers. "You've been pushing yourself hard lately," he said. "I thought you deserved a night where you didn't have to be anything but Monica." Her smile deepened. "You mean not a manager, a mom, and a fixer of everything all at once?" He chuckled. "Exactly, just Monica. Beautiful, brilliant Monica." Her heart warmed at the words, and for a rare quiet moment, she allowed herself to believe that this happiness, this kind of happiness, could belong to her again. When dessert arrived, a delicate chocolate soufflé dusted with powdered sugar, Julian reached across the table and gently covered her hand with his. His touch was warm, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "I've been thinking about this for a long time," he said, his voice dropping slightly, more serious now. "About us. You, me, and Liana." Monica's breath caught as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a ring, simple, stunning, and timeless. "Monica," he said, voice soft but sure, "will you marry me?" For a moment, the world stilled. The sounds of the restaurant blurred. Her heart thudded. Her thoughts raced. Images of Liana, their life, the path that had brought her here. She saw the hope in Julian's expression, the question that lingered in his eyes. She saw herself reflected in the polished diamond, this woman who had stood strong alone for so long. Her answer, when it came, was barely above a whisper, but filled with the quiver of something long hoped for. Yes. Julian's smile broke wide and bright as he slipped the ring onto her finger. In that moment, the room vanished, the people, the noise, all of it faded. There was only them, and a promise of something she hadn't dared imagine. The next morning, Monica sat beside Liana on the couch, trying to share the joy in her heart. She brushed her hand with the ring softly over her daughter's curls. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "Julian asked me to marry him, and I said yes." Liana didn't say anything at first. Her fingers moved slowly, tracing little patterns on her pajama pants. "So, he's going to live with us?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Monica replied, keeping her voice calm. "After the wedding, we'll all live together. We'll be a family." Liana's eyes lifted for a second, searching her mother's face, then dropped again. "Okay." The single word, flat and emotionless, pierced deeper than any protest might have. Monica had expected surprise, maybe some confusion, but the emptiness in her daughter's voice felt like something else entirely, like a door quietly closing. "Baby," Monica said softly, "are you sure you're okay?" Liana nodded once, her gaze still low. "Yeah, I'm fine." But Monica could feel the space between them tighten, the air turning thin and cold. She wanted to ask more, but the quiet nod, driven by a fear of what she might hear, kept her from pressing. She told herself it was just a big adjustment. Liana just needed time. In the days that followed, wedding planning overtook Monica's life. She was pulled into meetings with coordinators, looking at venues, finalizing guest lists. Julian, always organized, handled most of the details. He was focused, decisive. When Monica suggested something smaller and more personal, Julian gently steered her away. "This is a celebration of us," he said. "We deserve something grand." When she brought up inviting Tasha, his expression changed, just for a moment. "Are you sure?" he asked, smooth as ever. "Tasha's been distant. I'd hate for any negativity to affect our big day." Monica paused. There was something subtle in his words, wrapping tight around her chest. The suggestion was gentle, rational, but it sank deep, casting a shadow over a friendship that had been her anchor for years. Was Tasha really being distant, or had Monica simply stopped reaching out? "Tasha's my best friend," she said slowly. "Of course," he replied quickly, his polished smile sliding right back into place. "Invite whoever you want, it's your day." But the doubt had been planted, a quiet seed of hesitation disguised as concern. He didn't like Tasha, and maybe, just maybe, that was why Monica had started pulling back from her, without even noticing the distance growing. And that frightened her more than she admitted, how easily she had let herself drift away from the one person who had always told her the truth. The weeks slipped by, and the space between Liana and Julian only widened. Her daughter no longer stayed in the room when Julian entered. She offered no conversation, no polite smiles. She disappeared into her bedroom more and more, her journal her only real company. One evening, as Monica was folding laundry, a small slip of paper slipped from Liana's notebook. Her eyes, unbidden, scanned the sentence scribbled in her daughter's neat handwriting. Mom loves him. So why do I feel so alone? The words hit hard, tightening around her chest like a vice. The familiar pull of instinct and logic waged war inside her. She felt exposed, like the page had peeled back a layer of herself she was too afraid to look at. Was her daughter's loneliness the cost of her longing? She wanted to ask Liana. She wanted to sit beside her, to pry open whatever fear or sadness clung to her little girl. But she was tired. Tired from planning, from hoping, from forcing this to work. And beneath the exhaustion was shame. Shame that she kept postponing the conversation that mattered most. Instead, she approached her daughter's door and knocked softly. "Baby?" she called gently. "Can I come in?" Liana's voice came back faint, muffled. "I'm tired, Mom. Can we talk tomorrow?" Monica rested her hand on the doorframe. Her throat tight. "Okay," she whispered. "Tomorrow." But tomorrow kept slipping further away. The tension finally bled into the open one evening during Monica's final dress fitting. She stood before the mirror in a long ivory gown. The lace hugged her frame, and the veil draped softly over her curls. She felt beautiful, hopeful. Liana sat a few feet away on a small couch, her sketch pad balanced on her lap. The boutique was quiet. Only the low hum of the air conditioner and the soft rustle of fabric filled the space. Monica turned toward her daughter with a gentle smile. "What do you think, sweetheart?" Liana looked up briefly from her sketchbook. "You look pretty," she said softly, but there was no sparkle behind her words, no excitement, just a distant politeness, formality where ease had once lived. It landed like a whisper of something lost, a version of her daughter that used to smile without thinking, laugh without weighing the room. Before Monica could respond, Julian's voice cut through the air. "Liana," he said calmly but firmly. "Sit up straight. You're slouching." The abrupt command, so at odds with the soft, sacred energy of the moment, made Monica's brows pull together. She caught it, just a flicker in Liana's eyes, quick and fleeting, a look she knew too well. Liana immediately straightened her posture. Her shoulders tightened, and her fingers clutched the edge of her sketch pad. Her body obeyed, but her spirit withdrew. Monica felt it in her bones, the subtle recoil, the silent message. Be small. Be still. It hurt to see. Monica's voice was soft, but there was steel underneath. "Julian, it's just a dress fitting. She's fine." Julian smiled, quick and polished. "Of course, just encouraging a little posture. It matters." Liana kept her eyes down, her entire frame wound tight like a coiled spring, and in that moment Monica felt it again. The chill she had tried to ignore, the undercurrent that didn't belong. It slipped beneath the surface of their lives like a thread of ice, invisible but unmistakable. That night, as Monica tucked Liana into bed, she sat on the edge of the mattress, gently brushing back her daughter's hair. "Sweetheart," she said quietly, "is there something you want to tell me? What's been bothering you?" Liana hesitated, her small hand twisting the edge of her blanket. "Do we have to live with him?" The question, raw and vulnerable, made Monica's heart ache. "What's wrong, baby?" Liana's voice barely rose above a whisper. I like it when it's just us." Monica's throat tightened. She wanted to gather her daughter in her arms to reassure her that everything would be okay. "I know, sweetheart," she said softly, "but I really believe this will be good for all of us. You'll have your own room, your space, and he wants to take care of us." Liana's lips pressed together, her voice quiet and uncertain. "But I don't want him to be my dad." Monica's heart cracked open. The honesty in her daughter's words stripped away every shield she had built. She cupped Liana's cheek, brushing her thumb gently across the soft skin. "No one will ever replace your dad, baby, and you'll always have me. Always." Liana didn't argue, but as her eyes drifted closed and sleep slowly pulled her under, Monica felt no peace. She sat beside her daughter for a long time, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath, her own chest aching with everything left unspoken. Eventually, she slipped from the room and wandered into the living room. She sank into the couch and stared at the ring on her finger, the diamond reflecting a promise that now felt unbearably heavy. Beneath all her hope, a whisper of doubt stirred. The weeks before the wedding became a blur that devoured every part of Monica's days. The venue was secured, invitations sent, menu finalized. Julian's efficiency, once reassuring, now pressed like a quiet storm. He had input on everything, from flower arrangements to guest list to the music playlist. At first, Monica found comfort in his decisiveness, but slowly she began to feel like a guest at her own wedding. Every time she voiced a preference, Julian responded with a smile and a reason for why his way made more sense. Always calm, always logical, always convincing. It felt nearly impossible to argue with him. When Monica suggested involving Liana more in the ceremony, maybe as a flower girl or giving a short reading, Julian had paused, his lips pressed into a thin line before his expression softened. "She's shy," he said. "We shouldn't put her on the spot." "It's our day, Monica. Let's keep it simple." The protest rose in her throat and faded just as quickly. "You're right," she murmured, though her voice lacked weight. No pressure on her. But later that evening, as she tucked Liana into bed, the girl's voice, quiet and hesitant, broke the stillness. "Do I have to do anything at the wedding?" "No, sweetheart," Monica replied gently, brushing a curl from her daughter's forehead. "Just be there with me." Liana's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Good," she whispered. "I don't want to." The next day, the tension twisted tighter. Julian had taken over the rehearsal dinner guest list. Monica discovered, almost by accident, that he had quietly excluded Tasha from the invites. "You didn't invite Tasha?" Her voice was tight, confusion shading quickly into something sharper. "I thought we agreed to keep it small," Julian said smoothly, his tone even, but laced with edge. "Tasha? She's always so critical. I didn't think you'd want her stirring anything up right before our big day." Monica's heart began to pound. "She's my best friend, and I respect that," he said quickly, stepping closer, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. His voice softened, measured, persuasive. "But don't you think she's been a little undermining? She questions everything about us. Is that what you want surrounding you on our happiest night?" Monica's chest tightened. The logic in his words was like a weight, pressing into her uncertainty. Tasha had been distant, but hadn't Monica pushed her away? Hadn't that been her decision? "Fine," she said eventually. But the word felt bitter in her mouth. That night, Liana appeared in her doorway again. "Can I sleep here with you?" Monica's heart pinched. "Baby, what's wrong?" Liana hesitated. I don't like his house. It feels cold." Monica's hand paused as she stroked her daughter's curls. "It's just different. We'll make it ours," she promised. But the promise rang hollow, and Liana's small body, curled tightly beside her under the blankets, felt like a quiet warning Monica couldn't name, but couldn't shake. The following weekend, during Monica's final dress fitting, the invisible thread that had been pulled taut for so long finally began to fray. The boutique was calm. Only the soft swish of fabric against carpet and the distant hum of instrumental music filled the air. Monica stood before the mirror. The lace and satin of her gown pooled elegantly at her feet. The veil swept gently behind her. Her shoulders settled like a breath. Monica felt beautiful, yes, but also slightly apart from herself, as if she were watching someone else's story unfold in the mirror. Liana sat on a small couch nearby, her sketch pad resting open on her lap, untouched. Her gaze tracked her mother's reflection more than her own pencil lines. "You look pretty, Mom," she said softly, but her voice held none of its usual warmth. It was like a compliment spoken through a closed window. There, but distant, and Monica felt the hollowness of it settle in her chest. Before Monica could respond, Julian's voice, measured, low, cut into the quiet air. "Liana," he said, tone crisp and controlled, "sit up straight, you're slouching." The energy in the boutique shifted instantly. Liana's back straightened with reflexive precision, her fingers curling tightly around the edge of her sketch pad until her knuckles turned white. Monica's body tensed, not from the comment, but from the way it landed. Too heavy, too sharp. It didn't belong here, in this fragile moment between mother and daughter. Her reflection in the mirror suddenly looked too sharp, too exposed. "Julian," she said, calm but firm, "it's just a fitting. She's fine." Julian's face stayed composed, his lips curled into a quick, easy smile. "Of course," he said lightly. "Just a habit. Posture's important. She should know that." Monica turned from the mirror and looked at her daughter. She saw it. The tension wound through Liana's small frame, the thin line of her pressed lips, and something shifted inside her. Heavy. Cold. It was a feeling she couldn't ignore anymore. The same quiet dissonance she'd been brushing aside for weeks. And this time, it didn't retreat, it settled, like a weight in her gut. That night, Monica sat at the edge of Liana's bed, her fingers gently threading through her curls as she had done since she was little. But Liana wasn't asleep. Her eyes were wide, shadowed. "Sweetheart," Monica whispered, "do you want to talk to me? Tell me what's been bothering you?" Liana's lips trembled. Her voice was so soft it was nearly lost in the quiet room. "Do we have to live with him?" The question sliced through Monica like a blade. She swallowed hard. "Why do you ask?" Liana's fingers twisted into the blanket, small and tight. I like it when it's just us." Monica felt her heart splinter. She leaned down and kissed her daughter's forehead. "No one will ever come between us, baby," she murmured. "I promise." But even as she said it, the words felt like threadbare fabric, fragile and full of strain. A promise she wanted to keep, but didn't know how. But as she left the room, her hands trembling at her sides, Monica felt something slipping. Something she couldn't name, but that lived just beneath the surface. The next evening, a rare argument erupted between her and Julian. It started small, about the wedding colors of all things, but his tone turned fast. "You're so indecisive," he said, voice clipped. "We're days away from the wedding, Monica. I've had to handle everything because you keep second-guessing." Monica felt heat rise in her face. "This is my wedding, Julian. I should have a voice." His eyes flashed, quick and cold, before his expression smoothed back over. "Of course," he said, his voice suddenly gentle, almost apologetic. "I'm just trying to make it perfect, for you. For us." But Monica felt the difference. The apology rang hollow, and the crack that had once been barely visible had started to widen. She stared at him and realized, this wasn't partnership. It was choreography. Every word, every move, rehearsed and calculated, and she was losing herself in the dance. That night, Liana didn't ask. She simply slipped into Monica's bed without a word. Her daughter's small body curled tightly beside her, and Monica wrapped her arms around her, holding her close. Her eyes stared into the darkness, and in that silence, something unspoken finally broke through. Something was deeply wrong. Morning arrived, clear and golden. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the bridal suite. The air carried the faint scent of roses from the lavish floral arrangement scattered on every surface, creamy whites and soft blush tones, exactly as Julian had planned. Monica stood before the full-length mirror, the final touches of makeup fresh and glowing. Her wedding gown, a cascade of satin and lace, clung perfectly to her form. The long veil rested gently on her shoulders, a breath of silk. She should have felt joy, excitement, that fluttery anticipation every bride dreams of. But all she felt was pressure, tight and suffocating beneath her ribs. No amount of slow breathing could ease it. A soft knock at the door broke the stillness. Liana peeked inside, dressed in a tailored black suit. It made her look older, too polished, too stiff. Monica smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You look so grown up, baby, like a star." Liana's gaze flicked to the dress, then back to her mother's face. "You look like a queen," she said quietly, but her voice lacked the warmth the words deserved. Monica knelt, gathering her daughter's hands in her own. The coolness of Liana's palms she had held since they were tiny fists, tightened something in Monica's chest. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Liana hesitated. Her lips parted, then closed again. Finally, a whisper. "Do we have to live with him?" The question, fragile yet piercing, landed like a blade in Monica's chest. Her breath caught. A flood of instincts, doubts, and silenced alarms washed over her. "Liana," she said gently, her voice trembling, "it's going to be good for us, for you. You'll have your own room, your own space. He wants to take care of us." But Liana's voice, small and insistent, broke through the explanation. "I don't want him to be my dad." The simplicity of it, the raw honesty. It shattered something inside Monica. Her pulse raced. Her heart thundered in her throat. She opened her mouth to say more, to soothe, to promise, but a firm knock at the door cut her short. A voice followed, one of the coordinators. "5 minutes, Miss Reyes." Monica's heart stuttered. She pressed a lingering kiss to Liana's forehead. "No matter what," she whispered, "you'll always have me." The ceremony unfolded like a perfectly rehearsed scene. The garden was filled with soft music and the quiet hum of conversation. Guests sat in their finest clothes beneath a canopy of twinkling lights. The flowers, the silk runners, the golden chairs, it was all flawless. At the altar, Julian stood in a crisp black tuxedo. His expression was composed, polished, the look of a man who controlled everything. His eyes found Monica's as she walked down the aisle. His smile was exact, calculated, a portrait of perfection. Monica's heart pounded with every step. Her gown felt heavier than it should, her breath shallow. She glanced quickly toward the front row, toward Liana, her small figure dwarfed by the chair. Her legs swung slightly, her face still and alert. The officiant's voice, smooth and rehearsed, carried easily through the hush. If anyone has any objections, speak now or forever hold your peace. The air was motionless, but inside Monica something cracked. A fissure deep and undeniable. She felt the silence press in, the weight of expectation tightening around her throat. But she said nothing. The ceremony continued. The vows meant to bind them slipped from her mouth, but they felt far away, empty. She felt Julian slide the ring onto her finger. When she placed hers on his skin beneath the gold felt cold. Applause erupted as they kissed, a gentle touch of lips. Soft, brief. But Monica felt no warmth, only the sense of something wrong. Something invisible but real, weaving itself between them. The reception was a glittering show. Laughter and conversation swirled beneath the high ceilings of the estate's grand ballroom. Champagne flutes clinked, and the notes of a string quartet floated through the room. Monica moved among the guests, her gown sweeping behind her, her smiles easy and smooth. But she felt like a bystander to her own life, disconnected from the scene playing out around her. Across the room, she spotted Liana near the dessert table, her small frame barely reaching the elaborate spread. Liana reached up, her fingers brushing the edge of a cake plate. Then came a sudden, sharp sound, the crash of glass shattering on the marble floor. The room went still. Voices cut off mid-sentence, heads turned, eyes locked. Liana stood frozen, her eyes wide, shards of a broken dessert plate scattered at her feet. For a moment the silence was absolute. Then Julian's voice cut through it, cold, deliberate, controlled. "Liana," he said, each word quiet, laced with restrained anger. "How many times have I told you to be careful?" Monica stopped breathing. Her body locked, she stepped forward, and then, sharp and unmistakable, the crack of a palm against skin. Liana stumbled back. Her hand flew to her cheek, her eyes wide, filled with shock, and something deeper. Hurt, betrayal, fear. A red mark bloomed quickly across her face. The room froze. Guests gasped. A hush fell, just beneath the roar now filling Monica's ears. Time slowed. All she saw was Liana, her child, her heart, hurt by him. The heat inside her rose fast, a surge of fire burning away hesitation, burning through every excuse. Every lie she'd told herself. Her body moved before thought could catch up. Her heels struck the floor, sharp, sure, as she crossed the room through the stunned silence. She reached Liana, cupping her daughter's face, brushing her thumb over the angry red mark on her cheek. Her voice, tight with fury, broke the quiet. "You," she turned, rising slowly to face Julian, her words shaking, low and laced with rage. "You hit my child." Julian's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe, but not regret. His voice, smooth and cold, came as if the violence hadn't happened at all. "She was being careless. She needs discipline." "No." Monica's voice cracked the air, raw, loud, and shattering. Her body trembled, taut with rage, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it would tear through her chest. "You don't get to touch her. You don't get to teach her. You don't get to hurt her." Her voice shook, but the strength behind it roared through the room, tearing apart every illusion, every fragile lie she had told herself. Julian's eyes darkened, a flicker of panic behind his mask, control slipping. "Monica," he said, his voice tightening, dropping lower, a warning. "Don't make a scene." But her voice sliced clean through him. "You are the scene." Her chest heaved, her blood rushed in her ears, but her voice was steady. "I see you now. I see exactly who you are. A man hiding behind polished charm and practiced lines. You thought I wouldn't notice until it was too late." She took a breath and her voice rose, clear, unwavering. "But I see it now. I feel it now." The room seemed to pause, the crowd frozen in stunned silence. "You don't deserve to be my husband, and you damn sure don't deserve to be near my child." A gasp rippled through the guests, but to Monica it was faint. Nothing but wind compared to the storm in her chest. Julian's face twisted, tight and cold. His words snapped low, hissing. "Monica, don't do this." But she was already moving, already wrapping Liana in her arms, her heart a shield, her body a fortress. "Come on, baby," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but her arms were strong. "We're done here." She turned, held Liana close, her head high, and walked. The crowd parted, eyes followed, whispers churned, but Monica felt none of it. She felt only Liana's heartbeat pounding against her chest, the warmth of her daughter clinging to her, trembling. Behind her, the life she almost walked into crumbled. But ahead, there was Liana, there was freedom, there was them. The night air bit sharp and cold as Monica stepped past the estate's towering iron gates. The distant hum of the reception faded behind her. The heels of her shoes clicked fast and sure against the stone driveway. Her gown, once flawless, dragged damp through gravel. She didn't care. All that mattered was Liana's shaking frame against her chest, the uneven rhythm of her daughter's heart. Liana clung tightly to her, her face buried in Monica's shoulder, the silk damp with tears. Monica felt the stutter in her daughter's breath, the quiet, broken sobs that made her throat burn. They stopped beneath an old oak tree, its limbs casting jagged shadows under the garden's far-off lights. Monica knelt, the gown folding around her. She gently cradled Liana's face. The red mark on her cheek glowed even in the dimness, and Monica's fingers trembled as they brushed across it. Her voice, thick and raw, cracked as she spoke. "Are you okay, baby?" Liana's lower lip quivered, and her reply was a whisper, so soft it nearly vanished into the breeze. "It just stings, a little." Monica felt her chest split open. She gathered her daughter into her arms again, holding her tight, so tight she could feel the small, shaky breaths against her skin. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, baby." Liana's next words, small, muffled, shattered her all over again. "I didn't mean to make him mad." Monica froze. Something primal surged within her, hot and bitter, a fury so sharp she could taste it. She pulled back, just enough to see her daughter's tear-streaked face. Her own voice shook, but it was firm. "No," she said, her eyes blazing. "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. Do you hear me?" She cupped Liana's cheeks in both hands, her thumbs brushing away fresh tears. "He had no right, no right." Then a sound behind them, footsteps, soft against the pavement. Monica's body snapped taut. She instinctively pulled Liana closer, shielding her. She turned, her heart racing, ready to protect, ready to fight. But it wasn't Julian. It was Tasha, her best friend. Her face was pale, her expression drawn in horror. Her heels clicked quickly as she rushed toward them. "Monica." Tasha's voice was raw, her eyes locked on Liana's face, on the mark that said everything. "Oh my God." Monica's throat closed, her voice shaking. "He hit her," she said, barely able to speak. "He hit my baby." Tasha's expression shifted instantly, horror giving way to something colder, steady, protective. Her hands clenched at her sides. She knelt beside them, her voice soft but full of steel, brushing Liana's curls gently. "Sweetheart," she said tenderly, her tone still laced with restrained fury. "Are you okay?" Liana nodded, her voice barely audible. "It just stings." Tasha's jaw clenched, but her tone softened even more as she looked up at Monica. "Let's get you both out of here." Monica nodded, sharp and breathless. "Yes," she said tightly. "Let's go." Tasha reached for Liana's bag, her movements calm and steady. "My car's just ahead," she said. "Come on." They turned toward the parking lot, and then, behind them, a voice, too familiar, too close. "Monica." Her blood froze. She stopped, turning, her body immediately shifting to shield Liana. Julian stood several feet away. His tuxedo was still flawless, but his eyes burned with something cold, something furious beneath the surface of his polished mask. His voice came low and sharp, cutting cleanly through the space between them. "Don't walk away from me." Monica's body went rigid, every muscle coiled tight. She felt Liana tense in her arms, the sudden tremor returning to her daughter's frame. Tasha's voice sliced through the night, cold and unwavering. "You've done enough." Julian's eyes snapped to her. A flicker of something dark passed over his face. "This isn't your business." Monica's voice, when it came, was taut, low and vibrating with something on the brink of breaking. "She's my child." She stepped forward, her voice steadier with each word. "You made it my business." Julian's tone dropped, colder now, a quiet threat underneath. "She needs discipline. You coddle her, Monica. You always have. That's why she's soft." The words landed, but not how he intended. They ignited. Monica felt something inside her snap. Her voice surged up, shaking but resolute, sharp with everything she had buried for too long. "No." Her words rang out like a bell, clear and cutting. "You don't get to decide what my daughter needs. You don't get to define her. You don't get to touch her. Her voice cracked, raw and burning, but her eyes didn't waver. You think strength is cruelty. You think control is power. She stepped forward, holding Liana even closer. But you are nothing. Her words sharpened, each one a blade. You are a man who hurts children and calls it teaching. A man who breaks instead of builds. She drew in a breath, steady, and you will never see her again. Julian's mask cracked, his expression twisted, tight, angry, brittle. You're overreacting, he snapped. You're emotional. Don't let one moment ruin everything. Tasha stepped between them, her voice like steel. The only thing ruined here is your mask, Julian. Monica's voice came again, clear and sure as her hand pressed protectively against Liana's back. You showed me exactly who you are, and I should have seen it sooner, but I see you now. Julian's jaw clenched, his voice trembling with lost control. You'll regret this. Monica's response was quiet, but it landed like a stone. The only thing I regret, she said, voice cold, steady, unflinching, is not leaving sooner. Tasha's hand closed gently on Monica's arm, guiding her firmly toward the car. Monica didn't look back. She heard Julian's voice, sharp, angry, fading behind them, but it was just noise now. All that mattered was the warmth of Liana against her chest, the heartbeat that meant more than anything. The car doors shut. The world outside dimmed into silence. Liana's small frame curled into her in the back seat. Liana's fingers clutched the fabric of Monica's dress as Tasha drove, the world outside slipping past in a blur of headlights and shadow. The adrenaline, the fear, the rage. It all began to crash over her, wave after wave, and Monica's body trembled under the weight of it. Then she felt Liana's hand slide into hers. She gripped it tightly, holding her daughter's small fingers like a lifeline. Liana's voice, soft but steady, broke the silence. Are we going to be okay, Mom? Monica's reply came thick with emotion, but without hesitation. Yes, baby, we are. We will be. She felt Liana squeeze her hand, and in that tiny, fragile gesture, in that trust so pure, something inside Monica began to mend. Something unshatterable formed. A bond forged in fire. Untouchable. Absolute. They pulled up to the curb in front of their apartment building. Familiar. Worn. But theirs. It wasn't just a place. It was home. Tasha turned to her, her voice soft but sure. Do you want me to stay? Monica shook her head gently, her voice still shaky but steady where it mattered. No, you've done enough, more than enough. Their eyes met, and in Monica's gaze was a depth of gratitude that needed no words. Thank you for being here. Tasha's look held her, warm, fierce, all the way to the door. Inside, Monica locked it, once, twice, more for peace of mind than protection. She carried Liana to the couch, wrapped them both in the old blanket, the hum of the heater filling the silence. Then Liana's voice, so quiet, came again. Is he going to come here? Monica's throat tightened, but her answer came like steel. No, baby, he's never coming near you again. Liana's body relaxed just a little. The tension that had lived in her bones began to release. Okay, she whispered, her breath warm against Monica's collarbone. And then the tears came, silent, hot, tracing Monica's cheeks as she pressed a kiss into her daughter's curls. You have nothing to be afraid of, she whispered. Not anymore. And as Liana's breathing steadied, slow and deep, Monica felt something shift inside her. A certainty fierce and unshakable. No more doubts, no more hesitation. No one would ever hurt her child again. Not while she had breath in her body. Not ever. Morning came pale and slow, the light filtering through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the living room. Monica's body ached from the weight of the night, but her arms stayed wrapped around Liana. The girl's face was tucked against her chest, her breath even. Safe. The chaos of the wedding, the sound of Julian's hand, his twisted voice, it all felt like a half-remembered nightmare. But the sting was real. The faint mark on Liana's cheek, still there, was real. The phone on the coffee table buzzed, breaking the fragile silence. Monica shifted carefully. Easing Liana gently onto the couch without waking her, Monica reached for her phone. The screen lit up. Calls, texts, most from unfamiliar numbers. News traveled fast, but it was Tasha's name she saw first. Without hesitation, she answered. Her voice came out low, worn thin by the night's storm. I'm here. Are you both okay? Tasha asked immediately, her voice steady but thick with worry. Monica's throat tightened. Exhaustion pulled at her limbs, but beneath it was something colder. Something simmering. We're home, she rasped. We're safe. Tasha exhaled, the sound crackling through the speaker, weighted with relief and something sharper. Good. You did the right thing. Monica, you? She stopped, and Monica heard the shift in her tone. Tight, urgent. Listen to me. You need to act fast. Word's already spreading. She paused. There's video. Some guests recorded it. What he did, it's already online. Monica's heart twisted. Already sore, already bruised. The thought of exposure made her stomach churn. But then it sharpened, focused, became something clean and cold. Let them see, she said quietly. Let the world see him for what he is. She closed her eyes for a moment. The sound of her own heartbeat filled the silence. I need a lawyer. Her voice was flat, steady. Now. Tasha didn't pause. I know someone. Ana Rodriguez, she's good. Family law, restraining orders, all of it. I'll send her contact. Monica's grip on the phone tightened. Thank you, Tasha, for everything. You don't have to thank me, Tasha replied, her voice soft but resolute. Just promise me you'll see this through. Monica's jaw clenched. I will. The call ended. The phone vibrated almost immediately. Tasha's follow-up, sending Ana Rodriguez's number. Monica didn't hesitate. She tapped to dial, her fingers trembling slightly against the glass. A smooth, professional voice answered. Ana Rodriguez speaking. Monica's voice was tight, carefully held, but the cracks were just beneath the surface. Miss Rodriguez, my name is Monica Reyes. I need a restraining order. Immediately. The lawyer's voice remained calm, but there was a softness beneath the professionalism. Let's start from the beginning, Miss Reyes. Tell me everything. Monica's breath was shallow, but her words, once they came, poured out with a chilling clarity. She told Ana everything, how Julian had entered their lives, the signs she had ignored, the fear in Liana's voice, and then the slap, the moment the mask had shattered. Ana listened in silence. When she finally spoke, her tone was unwavering. I'm so sorry you and your daughter went through this, Ana said. The good news is, you're acting fast, and given how public the incident was, especially with the video circulating, we can move quickly. I'll file for a temporary restraining order today. It will keep him away from both you and your daughter while we pursue something permanent. Monica's voice, though quiet, was sharp with resolve. Do it. I want him gone. I want him out of our lives, forever. Ana's voice carried assurance like a blade. Consider it done, and if he tries to contact you, document everything. Every call, every message. If he shows up, call the police immediately. You're not alone in this. Monica felt the tremble in her hand as she lowered the phone. She pressed her palm to her mouth, her breath breaking, and then, for the first time since everything fell apart, the tears came. Hot, silent, unrelenting. But underneath the ache, there was something fiercer, something solid, something unbreakable. Hours passed in a blur, documents, signatures, legal forms. Ana worked with precision, and by the afternoon, the temporary restraining order was filed and approved. A single sheet of paper. So thin, so fragile, yet it felt like armor. It wouldn't erase the fear, but it stood between Julian and her daughter. And that meant everything. But Julian didn't stay silent. The first text came before sunset. His name, the familiar number. Just seeing it made Monica's skin go cold. You're making a mistake, Monica. Let's talk. Don't ruin everything over one moment. Minutes later, another. You've embarrassed me. You don't understand what you're doing. Fix this. Her pulse spiked. Rage and fear twisted in her chest. She wanted to scream, to reply, but Ana's words rang through her mind. Document everything. Do not engage. So she didn't. She took screenshots, saved every message, then blocked the number. The next call came from an unknown number, then another, and finally her voicemail. His voice. Low, tight, threatening. You think you're safe from me? You're not. You'll regret this, Monica. A shiver crawled down her spine. But her hands didn't shake as she saved the recording and sent it straight to Ana. That night, she locked every bolt on her door, closed every curtain. Liana stayed close, silent, sensing the shift. Her small body curled into Monica's side on the couch, their heartbeats pressed together. By morning, Monica met Ana in person. The lawyer was just as sharp as her voice, dark hair pulled back, her gaze steady and perceptive. She laid out the next steps like a roadmap through chaos. We'll move forward with a permanent protection order, Ana said, her fingers brushing across the growing stack of evidence, videos, screenshots, voicemail threats. Everything he's done strengthens your case. He won't be able to come near you or Liana, Ana said calmly. Monica's voice, low but edged with fire, followed. I don't just want distance, I want him gone from our lives. Anna met her gaze, steady and sure, and that's exactly what we'll get. The days that followed blurred into motions, court dates, and statements. The video from the wedding spread further than Monica could have imagined. Social media, news outlets, public forums. Outrage ignited like wildfire. Strangers condemned him. A few of the sycophants he had kept around tried to defend him. It was just a slap, a moment of stress, but their voices were drowned beneath the tidal wave of truth. A man who equated control with strength. A man who finally revealed exactly who he was. Julian's lawyer reached out with polished apologies, crafted statements, settlements aimed at salvaging his image. Monica rejected them all. Then, silence, no calls, no messages. The stillness should have brought comfort. But it felt sharp, like the edge of something waiting to fall. The hearing for the permanent order of protection arrived swiftly. Monica stood before the judge, her voice steady, her words unwavering. She told the truth. All of it. The signs, the threats, the slap. Liana's small hand gripped hers the whole time. Julian sat across the room, his face a mask of measured fury, but his eyes burned. The order was granted without hesitation. That night, back at their apartment, Monica locked the door, and something inside her finally let go. She turned, and Liana stood in the warm pool of lamplight. Is he gone now? She asked quietly. Monica's voice, still rough, came with absolute certainty. Yes, baby, he's gone. Liana let out a soft breath, and Monica felt the final thread of fear break away. She dropped to her knees, gathering her daughter into her arms, and for the first time since it all began, she felt it. Safety. They stayed there, wrapped in the comfort of their home, their bond, their freedom. And as the night deepened, Monica felt the flicker of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Hope. Morning arrived with gentle light spilling gold across the quiet living room. Liana's slow, even breathing rose from the couch where she slept. Outside, leaves rustled softly against the windows. Monica sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee gone cold. The steam had faded, but she clung to the warmth it had once held. Her knuckles pale, her body beyond tired, but beneath it all, something new, something like air after drowning. Liana stirred, blinking against the soft morning light. A sigh escaped her lips. Monica was already moving, coffee abandoned, kneeling beside her daughter. Good morning, baby, she whispered, her voice gentle. Liana rubbed her eyes, her body slowly uncurling as she sat up. There was something in her face, lighter, unburdened. Morning, Mom, she said, her voice sleepy but calm in a way it hadn't been in too long. Monica reached out, brushing a curl from her daughter's cheek. Her thumb traced the soft skin. No redness, no bruises, no shadows. How do you feel? She asked. Liana's answer was quiet, but sure. Monica's chest loosened. The ache of so many days eased. She pulled her daughter into her arms, pressing a kiss to her hair. Me too, she whispered. Me too. The day unfolded slowly, gently, with a peace that felt unfamiliar, yet precious. They made pancakes together. Liana focused intently, her tongue peeking out as she carefully flipped one, while Monica stood nearby, smiling. Laughter bubbled between them when one landed folded instead of flat. Then Monica's phone buzzed on the counter, a message from Anna. The order is official. He can't come near you or Liana. If he tries, we'll handle it. You're safe, safe. The words settled in Monica's chest, fragile, unfamiliar, but solid. She typed a simple, heartfelt reply. Thank you. The apartment, once a cage during the storm of hearings and threats, now felt like a sanctuary. Monica opened every window, letting the soft spring air wash through, sweeping away the stale shadows of fear. Liana sat by the window, sketch pad on her lap, her pencil moving lightly. Monica passed by, paused. What are you working on, sweetheart? Liana smiled faintly, not looking up. Just something new. Monica leaned in and saw it, a drawing of two figures holding hands beneath a wide open sky. No shadows, no sharp corners, just warmth. Her throat tightened. She ran her fingers gently through Liana's curls. It's beautiful, she said, her voice thick with something too big to name. Then the doorbell rang. A sudden chime. Monica's body stiffened, old instincts flaring, but before panic could settle, Liana's fingers slipped into hers. It's okay, Mom, she said quietly. We're safe. Monica exhaled slowly and checked the peephole. Tasha's warm, familiar face waited on the other side. She opened the door and was instantly wrapped in a tight hug. "Hey, warrior," Tasha said, voice heavy with emotion. Monica sagged into the embrace. "Hey." Tasha pulled back, studying her carefully. "How are you?" Monica's smile was soft, real. Breathing. Finally. Tasha's eyes shifted to Liana, who waved from the window. "And how's my favorite artist? Drawing. Want to see?" Liana grinned. Tasha stepped inside, heels tapping softly as she crossed to the window. She studied the sketch and hummed thoughtfully. "You've got real talent. I might have to commission something for my office." Liana giggled. "I charge a lot." Tasha gasped playfully. "A little entrepreneur. I'll have to negotiate hard." The room filled with warmth, the kind that healed. Monica leaned against the kitchen counter, feeling the cracks in her heart slowly knit together. Tasha turned back, her voice gentler. "So, what's next?" Monica's eyes dropped briefly to her bare hand, where Julian's ring had once been. She felt no loss, only freedom. She looked up, eyes steady. "Next is ours, me and Liana. No shadows, no fear, just life." Tasha's smile was proud and wide. "Then let's make it a damn good one." That evening, when the sky softened into dusk, Monica and Liana sat on their small balcony. The city murmured quietly around them. The air smelled like spring, fresh, full of promise. Liana leaned into Monica's side. "Will he come back?" Monica's arms tightened. "No, baby, he won't. And even if he tried, he'd never get near you. Ever." Liana was quiet a moment, then whispered, "I was scared, Mom." Monica's voice cracked, but stayed steady. "I know, sweetheart. Me too. But we're okay now, and we're together. That's all that matters." Liana nodded. "I believe you." As the last light of day slipped beyond the horizon and stars began to blink above, Monica breathed in the cool air. She felt Liana's warmth beside her, and for the first time in so long, she felt it fully. Freedom. No more pretending. No more watching for cracks in someone else's mask. The fight was over. And they had won. Not without cost, not without scars, but they had won. Monica lifted her face to the night sky and let herself breathe without fear. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs. And that was everything. Beside her, Liana's fingers slipped into hers, and together they sat beneath the endless sky. Hearts steady, bond unbreakable, free. So this is where the story ends. But before we go, can I ask you something? Are you still here? If you're still watching, still with us after everything, then maybe this story was meant for you. And if it was, if you stayed because something in Monica's fight, in Liana's quiet strength, spoke to something deep inside you, then that means something powerful. So tell me, what part of this story made you stay? Was it the moment she chose her daughter over comfort? Was it the soft promise of freedom? Was it the quiet voice that finally said, "I believe you"? Whatever it was, thank you for being here. Because stories like these, they don't just ask us to watch, they ask us to feel, to remember, to hope, and maybe, just maybe, to heal. Dear friend, sometimes we don't realize how much weight we've carried until we finally set it down. Monica didn't just survive, she endured, she protected. And when the moment came, she chose courage over comfort. In the quiet aftermath of chaos, she found what so many of us forget to fight for: peace. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we cannot control what others do, only how we respond. And Monica responded with unwavering love. Freedom, it turns out, isn't just the absence of fear. It's the presence of safety, of truth, of a future you claim for yourself and those you love. If this story moved you, touched a part of your own journey, or reminded you of someone who needs hope, please like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that stay with you long after the screen fades to black.